Let's talk about the state of the U.S.-Iran nuclear talks. There were some meetings in Cairo, I believe. Ali, what can you say about what's going on there and the significance of what it means in terms of both Israel and the U.S. Continuing to orchestrate this genocide and try and maintain some sort of hegemony in the region.
Yeah, of course, we've been following this story for the past couple of weeks. We had said that since Netanyahu was summoned to Washington at the beginning of this month, that it looked like the US was, for now, not willing to back the push by Israel and its partisans in the United States for a joint US-Israeli attack on Iran, which Israel very desperately wants and has been pushing for. And so they've held now, is it 2 weeks of talks in Oman
That's right, Oman.
between
Yeah.
the foreign minister of Iran and Mr. Arakchi and Steve Witkoff, President Trump's personal representative, towards a new nuclear deal. And these talks are continuing now, this coming Saturday, and they will now move to a level of technical experts speaking, so that's a sign that they're advancing. And we've had comments from Abbas Arakchi, the Iranian foreign minister, that the talks are yielding, quote, very good progress. Now, some interesting signals from the United States that are worth noting is that Secretary of State Mark Rubio this week gave an interview, and he said that a potential war with Iran would be, quote, much messier and more complex than military engagements that the American people have seen in recent years. He said, quote, any military action at this point in the Middle East, whether it's against Iran by us or anybody else, could in fact trigger a much broader conflict, Rubio said in an interview with the Free Press that was published on Wednesday. He also said, any sort of armed conflict in the region is going to be much messier than what people are used to seeing. And that's why the president is so committed to the peaceful resolution, the prevention of an armed conflict. Although he reserves every right to prevent Iran from getting a nuclear weapon, he is for peace. He has said that repeatedly, and that's why we want to end the war in Ukraine if that's possible. And I'm reading from a report in The Hill, which notes that the remarks come after the Barry Weiss of the Free Press, which is the publication Rubio spoke to, asked the Secretary of State about comments by Tucker Carlson. He is, of course, a well-known conservative commentator, asserting that a strike on Iran's nuclear facilities would, quote, almost certainly result in thousands of American deaths at bases throughout the Middle East and cost the United States billions of dollars. Those aren't guesses. Those are the Pentagon's own estimates. A bombing campaign against Iran will set off a war, and it will be America's war, end quote. So those were Tucker Carlson's comments, an influential voice on the right. Another thing that Rubio said that is worth noting, and this connects with something I pointed out last week, Rubio said, quote, there's a pathway to a civil, peaceful nuclear program if they want one. So recall what I pointed out last week, Trump's comments saying the only thing they can't have is a bomb. In other words, Trump was not setting as a ceiling for these talks that Iran has to dismantle its entire nuclear program. So Rubio seems to be confirming that. And, you know, these comments from Rubio, I think, can be taken as another signal to Israel and its lobby that the US is not going to fight this war for them. Of course, there's always a chance that this is some kind of bluff by the Americans. It's some kind of effort to mislead the Iranians, to give them a false sense of security, and then maybe take them by surprise. We could imagine a scenario like that. But the reason I think it's less likely to be that is, one, I think that would take a great deal of discipline that this administration doesn't have. The other, and more important, is we can see the reality in Yemen. If the United States is unable to defeat Ansarullah in Yemen, unable to restore um, freedom of navigation in the Red Sea for Israel-bound ships, unable to stop the Houthis from shooting down their drones, unable to stop Ansarullah, also known as the Houthis, from firing missiles towards Israel, then what will be the outcome of a uh, much more difficult and challenging attempt to attack Iran? So it seems to be that that reality is sinking in. It doesn't mean that there will be no war. I hope and pray there will be no war, but it does mean the US understands its limitations. And the real difficulty here, I think, is that Trump tore up that nuclear deal that the Obama administration had signed in 2015, saying, oh, it's a terrible deal because it didn't deal with Iran's ballistic missiles, it didn't deal with Iran's support for resistance movements across the region. Well, now the US is in a situation where it the best it's going to be able to get is something similar to the deal that Trump tore up. Yes, there may be adjustments or changes that allow Trump to claim some sort of victory that wasn't there, but that is really more or less what's on the table, because Iran isn't going to give up its entire program. They have no reason to trust the United States. And so the question is, can the United States accept basically what would be a defeat in that sense of going back to the deal they tore up? And that's the open question here. And how does this connect to Gaza, which was part of your question, Nora, is that um, I think that a successful deal, if they reach one, depends on not having war all across the region. For the US, they will not want that. And so that may, again, this is me being hopeful, give the Trump administration an incentive to call Netanyahu back in and say, that's it, wrap this up. It's not going anywhere. We've supported you. Uh, this is, we're not going to support this anymore. So I don't know. I hope that that's the case, but that, that those are significant comments, I think, by Rubio.
Yeah. We will continue to keep watching that, obviously. I mean, the maniacs with their hands on the buttons from the White House. Yeah, we just have to do whatever we can to keep, trying to bring everyone back to reality. And I don't know. It's really kind of this, this feeling of of doom every day, that
Yeah.
the Trump administration wants to accelerate and reignite, these wars of aggression and occupation, and no. So anyway, we will keep watching that. Thanks, Ali.